Okay, I'll call to order Committee of the Whole for Tuesday, June 23rd. Let the record show that all committee members are present. Item 1 on our agenda is PL 33-2 by Olean Anastasia to amend the City of Olean Code of Ordinances, Section 24-134, to prohibit parking on the east side of North 6th Street from its intersection with Wayne Street and north to the end of the street. Alderman Anastasia.
Yes, this is a resolution that we talked about several times. Speaking with Bob, I guess he researched it, and half the street already had no parking on this side, and signs due to old age and rust have been knocked down or moved and just never replaced. So I'm just adding, so this continues on down the street to the other half of the street, so it'll be completely on one side, no parking. This is a request of the residents. They've been asking me this for the last 6 months. And I asked the police chief and the fire chief if they had a problem. They went down there, and to my knowledge, they both came back to me, and they're here so they can speak for themselves. But they didn't have a problem with no parking this side. So, and it's been published, and the neighborhood is anxiously awaiting their signs.
Okay. Any questions or comments for Alderman Anastasia? Okay, seeing none. Sponsor?
Yes.
Sponsored by Alderman Anastasia. Do I have a second? No second. Seconded by Alderman DiPaolo. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, 3322 is approved and will be referred to tonight's regular meeting. Item 2 on our agenda is PL 3520 by Mayor Aiello to concur that the City of Olean Planning Board be declared the lead agency under SEQRA for the proposed historic rehabilitation and adaptive reuse of the former First National Bank of Olean and Siegel shoes into a mixed-use complex by Savarino Companies, LLC. Mayor.
Thank you, Bob. This is another step in getting the former Manny building repurposed to a market rate apartments and commercial property on the lower floors, as is the former Siegel shoe store. So this will make the Olean Planning Board will become the lead agency for the SEQRA process.
Okay, pretty standard. We do these all the time. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Okay, seeing none, would someone like to sponsor? Sponsored by Alderman Witt. Do I have a second? Seconded by Alderman Crawford. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? 3520 is approved and will be referred to tonight's regular meeting. Item 3 on our agenda, PL 3620 by Mayor Aiello, to concur that the City of Olean Zoning Board be declared as lead agency under SEQRA for the proposed renovations to the existing Temple Benai Israel building and construction of a 320 square foot addition off the rear of the building by the Olean Theater Company. Mayor.
This is another process in order for this to be repurposed by the Olean Theater Company. And the zoning board is the one declared lead agency for the SEQRA here, because this will take a change in the zoning. So another process. It's a beautiful building. I'm very happy to see that it's going to be used for the theater group. I'm sure that they do wonderful performances, and it'll be a nice thing for the neighborhood over there in South Jersey.
Okay. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Okay, seeing none, would someone like to sponsor? Alderman Witt will sponsor. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Alderman Doherty. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, 3620 is approved and will be referred to tonight's regular meeting. Last on our agenda is adjournment. I will make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Crawford. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Adjourned. Okay, I'll call to order the regular meeting of the Common Council for Tuesday, June 23rd, 2020. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Witt?
Here.
Alderman Thomas?
Here.
Alderman Doherty?
Here.
Alderman Crawford?
Here.
Alderman Thompson?
Here.
Alderman Anastasia?
Here.
Alderman Gonzalez?
Here. Please rise for the invocation.
Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Help us to engage in meaningful discussion. Allow us to grow closer as a group and nurture the bonds of this community. In your name we pray.
Allegiance to the flag, United States of America,
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Reading, correcting, and approval of the minutes of the previous regular meeting.
The regular meeting of the Olean Common Council was held on Tuesday, June 9, 2020 at 6:35 p.m. Present, Alderman Gonzalez, Alderman Panis, Alderman Dory, Alderman Parker, Alderman Palito, and Alderman Anastasia.
Okay, I will make a motion to approve the minutes from the previous meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Doherty. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Minutes are approved. We'll move on to committee reports and unfinished council business.
None.
Communications from the mayor.
Thank you. There is one proclamation for Juneteenth. If you could read that. We have Dellamore in the audience here tonight. After the proclamation is read, I'll walk up and then present it.
Special proclamation for Juneteenth. Whereas the regiment of Union General Gordon Granger landed in Galveston, Texas on June 19, 1865. The General's first order of business was to deliver General Order Number 3, which read in part, the people of Texas are informed that in accordance with the proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. Whereas the words of this order brought both shock and jubilation to the new former slave in the celebration of the freedom commenced. Whereas the celebration of continued annually in June 19th was called Juneteenth. Whereas the mission of the African American Center of Cultural Development in Olean is to value, promote, and integrate with the rich and diverse history and culture of the southern region of New York State through celebration of the talents, lives, and history of the African American in the region. Whereas the African American Center of Cultural Development's annual celebration of Juneteenth in the city of Olean was unfortunately canceled due to the COVID-19 pandemic. But today, we still remember to commemorate this holiday. Therefore, I, William J. Aiello, Mayor of the City of Olean, do hereby proclaim June 23rd, 2020 as Juneteenth in the City of Olean, New York, and urge all Olean residents to learn more about Juneteenth and its significance in African American history and in the heritage of our great nation.
Proclamation. Congratulations on moving forward. The African American Cultural Center. I know you're going to do it.
Amen. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Bill.
Anything else there? Okay. Miscellaneous communications.
Application for liquor license, Brothers Bistro, 188 INC, 188 North Union Street. Liquor license, class change, Mercy Bar Grill, LLC, 1020 North Union Street.
City official reports.
We have none.
Proposed legislations and referral.
PL 34-20, by Mayor Aiello, referred to regular meeting Tuesday, June 23rd, 2020, for was written by Council President. PL 35-20, by Mayor Aiello, referred to Committee of the Whole Tuesday, June 23rd, 2020, by Council President. PL 36-20 by Mayor Aiello, referred to Committee of the Whole Tuesday, June 23rd, 2020 by Council President. PL 37-20 by Alderman Doughty, referred to Strategic Planning Committee by Council President.
Okay, so we're going to move into the public comment section now. This has got to be a little different this time because there are a number of people here who I believe five outside that want to speak. Okay, so the way this typically works for people who don't come to council meetings, typically we will open up an opportunity for the council to make a comment. Anyone on the council, they can make whatever statement they want, and then we turn it over to the public, and everybody has 5 minutes. That's different this time because we're not all in this room together. We got to kind of cycle one in and one out, and we ask that you just bear with us. That being said, I kind of want to, if you don't mind, I'd like to start first and take this off for a minute, because I want to take a second and address the issue that I think brought a lot of people here tonight, which is the resolution regarding Black Lives Matter. And I've got it written here, so I apologize if I'm looking down at that. I just want to make sure I get this right. The resolution is not meant to, it is meant to be the beginning of a conversation. We as a council have not discussed what has been happening nationwide, nor have we acknowledged the peaceful protests that have gone on in Olean for the past several weeks. This resolution is intended to acknowledge this and serve as a means to open the conversation, not close it. The resolution has already been called by one individual a vague, toothless resolution in support of the Black Lives Matter movement that doesn't commit them, the city, to anything to address the issues in our local community. And they're right. But we can't commit to meaningful change without your input. Racism, systemic oppression are issues that need to be discussed and addressed by the whole community. In order to do that, we need to engage people and listen so we can understand exactly what the issues are here in Olean. These recent events have caused me personally to look inward at these issues and question how we can do better. That's why I wrote the resolution the way I did. I'm trying to express my willingness as council president and as alderman to open the door, to start a conversation, to communicate my desire to listen and to take action, most importantly. I hope everyone on the council feels the same way. That's why I put this forward, and now I'm done, and I'm going to listen to all of you. Thanks.
Paul.
John.
Like you, I speak better when I read from my thoughts in my head. So, obviously, following up on that, I want to commend and I also appreciate, first, Alderman Gonzalez's intention and courage to bring this forward. I also want to make sure that this resolution isn't coming across to our community as reactionary or lip service from an elected body, which, mind you, is currently composed of all white people. I applaud Paul for bringing this before us, and I want to ensure that this resolution is only a first step and one of many towards strengthening our community bond across all boundaries. Personally, I have been very silent during this past month of protests and rallies, not because I'm indifferent to the feelings of inequality or an injustice, but because as a middle-class white male, I believe now is the time to listen and to learn from what is happening around us. Also, I believe that so many in our own city, like in our own country, are demonstrating that gestures alone aren't going to cut it anymore. Earlier, I reached out to some of the members of the Black community in Olean because I wanted to hear from them, and they agreed with some of my concerns. Words without actions are just words, but it's a start. Everyone deserves to have a seat at the table, as well as a community that supports equality and each other. In my opinion, I believe that we are blessed to live in Olean, New York, as we are both an isolated and supportive community. And that's the point. That's my opinion. Maybe everyone in our community doesn't feel the same way. As representatives of this community, which has a growing minority demographic, it's our job to reach out and listen. as we vote on the resolution tonight, I would ask this council to push for transformational change across our organization, in addition to this gesture of goodwill and support. If this body could create a neighborhood safety task force a couple of years back, then it sure as hell can create a diversity, inclusion, and global equity task force. The purpose behind DIG task force is to invite diverse community members together and who we as the city council represent, to sit down with them on an ongoing basis with municipal leaders, educational leaders, and religious leaders in order to exchange ideas, cultivate inclusive policies, and listen to each other. We must harness our diverse strengths while also embracing one collective goal, which is making Olean the best place possible. Without future plans in place, I fear that this resolution is only words, and I, for one, don't want my vote to be interpreted that way as just a kind gesture or a politically correct thing to do. This is a start. We need to push for more, for better, and for everyone. So I ask this council to continue pursuing and possibly a DIG task force as additional steps to this resolution. We owe our community that. Thank you so much.
Alderman Witt.
Thank you. And I also agree with Paul and John. I think, a lot's happened over the past month. And I think sometimes Olean is like this little cultural melting pot. I remember after 9/11, we went to different houses of worship, and we all pulled together, and we all shared our feelings, and we talked. And I remember taking my kids to that, and we learned so much about other people and other cultures. And that's what Olean, to me, is about. The only thing I would say about the resolution is I would like to amend it to add that we, whereas we would like to start a communication within our community and start putting together some sort of council or some sort of committee. And I think as chair of public safety, I'd be more than happy to get that started. So I would just like to add that, amend that to the resolution. Also, a couple years ago, we voted unanimously. I think we have 3 new council people. But as a council, we voted unanimously to become a compassionate community. And I think this adds to that, but I think we have a long ways to go. I've talked to actually my pastor, and he's more than willing to be involved and be a part of this discussion. And I think it's something we have to do now. As John said, words are words, but you have to have action behind them. And I think it's more than time to have this discussion. I do believe Governor Cuomo wanted the police department and the community to come together to have these discussions, and I think that the time's now. We've got to take advantage of the moment and make the best of it.
Thank you. Maybe when we get to the actual resolution, we can talk about an amendment to it. Nick, there's no issue with that, correct? Correct.
Thanks.
Can I say something?
Alderman DePaul, yes, sir.
This whole thing, Black Lives Matter, we want to all come together. And I think why can't we call it All Lives Matter? Why can't we call it that way? Because right now we're dividing it. We have a police force, we have the whites, we have yellows, we have reds, blacks. Right now, we're concentrating just on black lives. We've had red slaves, we have had yellow slaves. The Roman Empire had white slaves. The blacks aren't the only slaves in the world. The Indians have their own slaves. If we want to concentrate on slavery, let's change this whole thing. All lives matter. An 11-year-old came up to me and said, Papa, all lives matter. Not just blacks, all lives. And that's what we need to concentrate on. Those cops in Buffalo, they lost their lives because somebody made a quick decision. They lost their jobs for that reason. If anybody knows riot control, they didn't break they couldn't leave that position they were in. Did they really push that gentleman down? Or were they in their position to continue on? The public doesn't know riot control, how to proceed through that. But we concentrate on one thing: all lives. That's what matters to us. I have 2 grandchildren that are black. I don't look at them that way. And this resolution, we're looking at just blacks. We're looking at the color. That's what I'm saying.
Thank you for that comment, Alderman DePaulo. Anyone else?
Paul.
Alderman Pam.
So what Alderman DePaulo touches on something. I remember a interview on 60 Minutes where Morgan Freeman told Mike Wallace. Mike Wallace asked him what he thought would end racism, and his answer was to quit talking about it. Quit using the term black, white. They were just people. And that was his take. And in my life, that's been my gut feeling. I've always hoped that it could just be that, you know. Denzel Washington says you can't legislate love. Now, granted, if you want to achieve love of people and all peoples, bring them together so they can spend time to each other, find ways to care for each other, that makes sense. And in our community, I think, you know, we've done some things that touch on that. The farmers market that we have uptown is a place that brings people together, as small as that is. I believe that. And I also, I don't think I'm not convinced that the actual group, Black Lives Matter, is, you know, the cause to support. I don't think it needs color in the name. And as far as the resolution, for me to support it, I think everything with the term whereas before it would need removed. But the bottom 2 sections make sense. That's my take.
Thank you, Alderman Pence. Anyone else? Alderman Doherty.
Yeah, so I was going to start by thanking Della Moore for all of her work in our community. And her, Della is such a bright light in our community, and she doesn't see color. She stood by me, and we went down and we supported the protest in a peaceful manner, right on the outskirts of it, so that we could be a perimeter of peace. It was a beautiful thing. We've got a lot of support from the police department, as well as people in the community driving by, waving, thank you. We were holding harmony and love signs, things like that. Now for the resolution in question, I have to kind of point out to what Linda Witt said. We weren't unanimous with the Charter for Compassion. Me and Nate Smith voted nay on that, for the simple fact that it was the organization itself. Now the All Lives Matter, the Black Lives Matter intent, right? Like all lives do matter. And some people in our community need a wake-up call to that, and that's the intent for that. But to get behind an organization that is kind of pretty broad in its scope, and in some states are very peaceful, in other states they are burning down targets to prove a point. And I can't get behind all the violence of the organization. So if it was to support just the movement that Black Lives Matter or All Lives Matter, then I could get behind it. But to just support an organization, I don't know if I can get behind it.
Thank you. Is that it?
That's it.
Does anyone, Alderman Anastasia, do you have anything to say?
Yeah, I just concur with your statements and John's and everybody's. I agree with everything that has been said so far. I miss seeing Della at Tops. She used to be there every few years there. But I'm just glad that the protests, and it's their right to do the protest. I'm glad they kept them peaceful. And I'm supportive of their First Amendment rights. And if they want to protest, that's fine. And thank you for keeping everything peaceful in the community.
Yes, Alderman Mayor.
As everyone may not know or does know, I am being directed by executive order of the governor to put together basically a task force that will look at all these issues and get community involvement, to look at the way our police department, the rules and regulations there. So I will be welcoming a lot of input, a lot of community members. I think John and Linda, I think this can suffice as the committees that we want to put together here and work on the issues that we have here in Olean.
Have you been given any deadlines, any due dates on that,
Yes,
Bill?
we have to have a plan in place and submit it to the governor's office by April 1st, 2021. Okay, so there's not a lot of guidance right now. It just says what is needed to. I'm waiting for NICOM, New York State Conference of Mayors, to come out with some guideline or some basically, come out with their opinion on how we can work on this. And so this will be coming, and it is, like I said, it is a mandate from the governor, and we'll be working on it. And we'll have a lot of community involvement.
Great. Thank you, Bill.
Clarence, do you want to read your thing?
The public comment portion of the Common Council regulating is established to provide members of the community with the opportunity to publicly state their views, voice their concerns, or to provide input pertaining to any issue affecting city government. Additionally, the mayor, common council members, and city department heads encourage any person with questions to contact them at their offices.
Okay, that being said, I will open the public comment section. If you'd like to make a public comment, please approach the microphone, state your name and address, and you will have 5 minutes.
Hi, my name is Clarissa Spiller-Yvonne. I wish Ward 13, Southward Street, Olean, New York. I stand here as a lifelong resident of Olean and a member of the Black and Latino community. I rebuke the resolution in support of the Black Lives Matter movement on the grounds that these hollow words do nothing to address the ongoing lack of representation of the Black and Brown community within the city administration, including the Olean school system, and the ongoing discrimination that remains examined in depth by city leaders. Simply providing a resolution of words without a plan of action on how to actually achieve a welcoming and inclusive community only show that City Council does not take seriously the obvious discrimination that exists within our city and local government. Olean is a good city, but without the cultural diversity within the city government and Olean City Schools leadership, we could be the best example of small town America as it stands today, but it is really difficult to fight discrimination and racism in a city that refuses to acknowledge it exists. I do see color, because that's what makes America beautiful. And for such a diverse community, as many of you have spoken on, I'm really amazed at the lack of representation of Black and brown people that I see within our city government, within our school system, of teachers, of the police. I think that we could do better. And do you know why Black Lives Matter? Black Lives Matter because they never have in America before. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Danny Gaten. I live at 794 North Union Street, Olean, New York. I'm here to represent the Olean Racial Injustice Coalition that was formed in the city to address some of these specific issues. So I'll start out by telling you what their stance is, and after listening to some of the comments, I'll tell you now. The Olean Racial Justice Committee stance is that we believe that this resolution
Just speak up, I'm sorry, I'm hard time.
We believe that this resolution lacked action. And by action, we meant being able to put a board of diverse people that live in the city together and help guide you guys through a process of making the city more diverse and open to different races and genders and things like that would have been perfect for the city to do. To stand behind this resolution as a way of starting the conversation in the city. The city of Olean is getting younger, it's getting more diverse, and people just do not feel like they're being heard in the city, as you can see through the protests. The people that were protesting, marching, and things like that, they believe what they're marching for. It's not by accident that they're out there. And we're as a coalition, we're more than happy to have that conversation with you. That coalition is very diverse. There's younger people, older people, white Americans, African Americans, Hispanics, Latinos, everybody's there. That coalition is almost 3,000 people strong. We want to have this conversation with you guys. That's our stance, and we're open to having a conversation. My opinion, from listening to the statements in this chamber, is concerning for me as a resident, lifelong resident in the city, and also as a black man in the city. I'm more concerned today than I was yesterday about where the city stands on these particular issues. And I know that we have to put together a board to look at police reform from the government. That's a mandate. And that board should start right where Mrs. Wood said it should start. That should be your board. And they should help you guys, guide yourself through this process of a diverse city. You're becoming more diverse. And if you guys as a council cannot embrace that, then the city's going to fall. You're going to get more of what you have protesting in the streets. You guys have got to come along with the changes. This is an Olean from 1980, 1970. Embrace the fact that you have young people here. Embrace the fact that you have a diverse community that's growing here. It doesn't sound like to me, from a resident, that you guys embrace that at all. You guys want the same government you had 10 years ago. You don't have that population here anymore. And I can tell you, listening to his statement, that concerns me. Because if you can't say that Black lives matter, then you can't say that all lives matter. It is that simple. If you can't let them words roll off of your tongue, that's concerning. And yes, the movement as a whole has some ups and it has some downs as a committee for the Black Lives Matter. Depending on what city you go to, and it's no different than any other common council. It's no different than any other breast cancer awareness. It's no different than any other committee that's together. Nobody does it the same, but the concept is there. And for you guys to say that you can't get behind that concept as a young African American male that lives in the city, you just told me you can't get behind me. You just told me that my life isn't worth the same amount as yours. You may not understand what you're saying when you say that, but that is just what you said to a young black man like myself. So this is the education piece that maybe the common council and even the mayor need to go under and educate yourself. You say things, and that's how that comes across. So when you say, I can't get behind Black Lives Matter, understand you're saying to every black person in the city, especially the young people in the city, that understand what the movement is. Some of the older African Americans don't really understand what's going on with this movement right now. But the younger people do, and they're very diverse. If you notice in every other city that's going on, there's just as many Caucasians marching as there is African Americans. So it's bigger than just a African American movement. This is a young people movement that says we want change, we don't like what's going on. But from a young black male perspective, when you say that, that's what you say. And when you say you don't support that, you don't support us. I believe that our Olean City Police Department is in a prime spot right now to make change in this community. If you let them, they're young, they're energetic, they want to be involved in the community. If you talk to them officers, you look at them officers, the way that they could police this community in a different way and be more involved, it would be unbelievable for them, and they would enjoy their jobs more. And I forget your name, but what he just said about what happened in Buffalo, and the militarization of that, is exactly what we're talking about. Them officers should have never been put in that situation to begin with. But when you show up like they showed up in riot gear, looking like they're ready to go to war, what do you think the reaction of 20,000 people is going to be? We have an opportunity in this city to change the way we police this city. And I said it on Juneteenth, and I'll say it again. Nobody here from the crime rate that you have is going to hurt the officers for the most part. So we have the ability to allow our officers to police the community in a community environment. And I don't want to hear that it can't be done, because when I grew up in this city, that's how it was done. Until all of a sudden, something changed. And I don't know what changed, but it's not policed today the same way it was when I was a child. Because I knew every officer. They were down at the park hanging out with us. They were down at the park talking to us. They knew every high school kid in the city. They knew every elementary kid in the city. And they would shake your hand and say, how is your mom? How's your dad? How's your child? That is what we can do as a city of Olean. And you can be the example for that. Let that next young kid that wants to be an officer that's African American look at the officers in this community as an example, and not as somebody that they're scared of, because every time you look at them, they have flak jackets on, guns on, tasers on, and it looks like they want to go to war. Just the perception of that, that's what that looks like. And you do our young officers a disservice by not letting them be part of the community because of the rules, the regulations, and everything else that we can work through and get these guys back to being community-based officers instead of officers that you instantly look at and go, oh my God, he's coming to talk to me, even though he's coming to talk to me in a peaceful manner, but he's got a gun, a taser, and a flak jacket. That doesn't scream peace. That doesn't scream, let's have a hi, how you doing type of conversation. And to address him again about the cops in the city of Buffalo, when you show up with riot gear, expect a riot. That's what you're going to get. Perception is reality. And what you guys have shown tonight in some of your comments is the perception of, we don't want you here. And then you ask for a caring community that you guys voted on, and that's caring? That's compassionate? There's nothing caring and there's nothing compassionate about what some of you guys said. It's actually disgraceful. I applaud Councilwoman Witt. I applaud you for bringing the resolution to the table. I applaud Councilman Crawford for saying what he said. I applaud them because they stand with the 3,000 people that are in the coalition that says, we want change too. To set a committee up to reform the police department and then say we're going to look to the community for guidance after that. How about having young people on that committee? How about having African Americans on that committee? How about talking to us before you set the committee up and say, what are you looking for out of our police department? How about having a meeting with us with the police chief and the union, because we know the union's going to play a role. That's a given. We know that. In saying, what's going on in the city and how can we make it better? But I said it on your chief and I'll say it again. If that committee is set up and there is not young people and not African Americans on that, there is no way that we can get time. There is no way that we can. And you'll hear from me again if that's the case. That committee is so important to the city, it cannot be a rubber stamp. It can't. This is your guys' opportunity to change the perception of the city. If you don't take it, you fail the city. You fail the city of Olean and its young people and its diversity and everything else that goes along with it. And for that, if you do that and you choose to do that, I am sorry. Sorry for the city, sorry for the young kids, sorry for the mixed kids in the community like myself, sorry for the young African American kids that are growing up in this community. I'm sorry for them. And you would have done them injustice because right now is the time to make change. So before you say what you need to say, think about what you're saying. Because when you say you don't support it, I'm telling you from a young African American standpoint, that tells me that you don't support me. And you don't need to justify it to me. I'm telling you what that means. That's what I just heard tonight. Don't justify it. Don't tell me I'm right. Don't tell me I'm wrong. Because until you walk in my shoes, you have no idea what we live with every day. I'm telling you how I feel. And for that, and for everybody who said that they can't support that, I'm sorry. And I hope that you sleep well at night. Because that's not okay. And that's not caring. And that's not supportive. And you just isolated a whole section of the city by what you said. And Mayor Aiello, I know your heart. I know your heart. I know you love this community. I know you love the people in this community. I grew up with you. I know that you would go to bat for African Americans at all costs. I know your heart. Don't allow this to happen in the city of Olean. This one's on you. You can pull these guys along. Don't allow this to happen. Stand up for what's right. I know your heart. Me and you go way back when I was a kid. I know what you believe. Don't get caught up in the politics. Stand up for what you believe. Because I know what you got. With that,
Thank you very much, Mr. James.
And I'm gonna let somebody else know.
One thing, obviously that was very great. Thank you so much for speaking. I would just ask future speakers, because we have a lot of people coming and get a lot of people to speak, please try to keep your comments to 5 minutes.
Or did I go over? Because that's not, that would be very normal.
Just a little bit. That's
That
all
would be
right.
very normal.
Danny, are you leaving?
Yeah, I'll let somebody else come in.
Okay, yeah, you can tell them that.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Marcia leaving?
Sonia McCall, 118 West Henry Street, Olean.
Sorry, what was it?
Sonia McCall, and it's 118 West Henry Street, Olean, New York. I have to say I am surprised, sad, and somewhat embarrassed. This is not what I expected to hear the people who run our city. I've worked in social justice for over 30 years. I tell people, you know, people say, oh, you're in that because of your family. No, I had no family because I was already doing this work. And that's why I have the family I have, which is, some of you who know me know that my family is really very and I never got it away. I read this thing on saying white Americans say they're waking up to racism. And this 26-year-old said, I'll be thinking, constantly acknowledging racism right now, it's so draining. And then I'm like, imagine being a black person doing that your whole life. And to the point about people love to take Morgan Freeman and take a flip. We love flips. What we forget is there was a crucial closing argument. He said he'd gone on to explain that the point was to put an end to racial consciousness, to stop the habitually attaching color labels to people, stop the racializing and racial profiling. Without this closing point, the message becomes a twisted oversimplification soundbite. People only pay attention to the last piece of the interview, and the message is lost when it's shortened. What he said at the end is what people hear. I'm going to stop calling you a white man, and I'm going to ask you to stop calling me a black man, but that doesn't work. Just because I have black children, black grandchildren, here's the reality. I remember being on, we have 3 daughters, and I was waiting for Dr. Who to tell me what this was going to be, what child, and I was so excited, and then I was so fearful, because he told me I was going to have a boy. And I knew what that meant. 23 years ago, I knew what that meant. I've known what that meant, and I know what that means now. The reality is, they see your grandchildren as black. That is it. They see my grandchildren as black, and that is it. It goes back to slave times. You can look at one drop of blood, and that is the reality. And so I can look, and I can try to emphasize all I want, but the reality is I wake up white every day, and I have the great luxury of not having to think about race when I'm thinking about myself. And that's where we as white people have the issue. We don't have to think about being white. We don't have to think about what that means. And we are the majority. So we don't have to change the practice if we don't want to. I mean, that's the reality. But when my children go out into the world, I have a different view of when they come home or don't come home and what time. When my daughter went off to college, I had to say to her, honey, listen. And by the way, I am incredibly appreciative of the police that we have in the body that I have been so fortunate to live in this community. But I had to say to her, honey, listen, I want you to do this for me. If you ever get pulled over by the police, I want you just to stay there, and I want you just to keep your hands on the wheel, and I want you to say yes, sir, and I want you to ask for permission to move your hands. And I dare any one of you who have children to just say, did you say that to your children? Because maybe they might not come out of it alive. My daughter in her dorm had racist stuff posted. People say racism is dead. I'm going to tell you, I went and had ice cream with my husband. We went out on our motorcycle, and, you know, somebody went to high school, lovely woman, and she said something about, you know, people want to call it riots. We had rallies here. And she said, we don't have crime, and went on to say, I said, yes, but we have racism. I mean, that's the reality. We have more now than 4 years ago, and I'm going to tell you what, I go all over in this community, and it's way worse. I tell people, you want to know what it is? You can ask my husband. He went to Robert E. Lee High School, elementary school. So imagine being a black child going to Robert E. Lee elementary school, right? And if he tells me it's worse, I have to believe him that it's worse. So So the reality is that call the group whatever you want to say, there's all kinds of analogies to try to get people to understand why we have to say Black Lives Matter. The reality is that my children's lives are viewed as less than a great many years. And I hope that your grandchildren, the reality is when they go out of the world and they're not in your protection, they're Black. That's it. Nobody is going to look at them any different. And I know that, and that is my anxiety and fear. That's my anxiety and fear of my husband, you know. That's the reality. If I come back late, he's not worrying if I'm safe for the most part. So I encourage you guys, I am old enough also to know this dialogue has started 100 times. And we have stopped it 100 times. Football season started, baseball season, well, there might not be any, so we might have to have that discussion. So I encourage you, no group addressing the issues of social justice and racial equality can happen when you don't include those who are most at risk. So I am so appreciative of those of you who serve our city. I may not agree with you, but I appreciate the fact that you serve our city. I would encourage you to be open to listening beyond what we have perhaps known, and know that it is not a condemnation, but I'm going to tell you what. To say all lives matter is seriously like just shutting the door. You're done. Okay? So please be mindful. Words mean so much. So I thank you. I thank you all for your time.
Thank you very much. Cal, before you start, just one thing. When we get to the 5-minute mark, I'm going to just raise my hand and just give you a signal so that you guys can know to wrap it up. You know what I mean? Just because we have a lot of people and we want to keep people.
This is going to surprise you.
Okay.
Delaware, 108 South A Street, Olean, New York. Let me help, please.
Della, I didn't hear what you said. Della, I didn't hear what you said. I'm sorry.
Okay, it's going to go past my 5 minutes. I said, let me help. That's what I said, please. I made it from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. Thanks, Barry. My name is Leo Walters O'Hara. I live on 302 North 9th Street in Olean. I'm here to say very few things because my perspective on this issue as a passing white male, by the way, I'm a transgender male, so I understand a very different side of the Olean society, and I'd be happy to share my thoughts on that at a time when it's most appropriate. But this is the moment to amplify Black voices. And here's why, sir. Because the opposite of Black Lives Matter is that Black lives don't matter. There is not a converse of that statement that is justifiable. If you cannot say the phrase Black Lives Matter, then you can damn well not say all lives matter. Point blank and period. And to center your narrative as a white person in a time in history when Black anguish is crying out from 400 years of being stepped on, it is the absolute height of white privilege to say, I can't roll with the phrase Black Lives Matter. That's the height of privilege. I grew up in the church. I grew up in this area. My dad was a pastor. I understand the great Judeo-Christian values, all lives matter. But the reality is, until you can let the phrase Black Lives Matter slip off your white tongue, our world is not equal. And it's not fair. And it's not just. And I thank you so much, Paul and John and Linda, because you were active. and because you listen to your community, and because you engage. But when I see you sitting with your arms crossed and refusing to say Black Lives Matter, we are not done, and we are not equal. And we, the young people, and the people who are coming for office, we're not going away. Because we're very organized, and we're going to stay organized, and we're not going to forget. All right? We remember, and we're here, and we're ready to participate, and we're ready to engage. And we're watching, and we're listening, and we're seeing what you have to say. Because there is no opposite of Black Lives Matter that doesn't carry with it the connotation that Black lives do not matter. No one said Black Lives Matter only. No one said Black Lives Matter more. It's a simple statement of fact that Black Lives Matter, period. And until we can culturally say that, we are never, ever, ever going to do right by a group of people that have been marginalized and brutalized since the beginning of our history. It's rooted in our culture, and until we root that bit of racism out of our history, we have no room to say that we're an equal community. Olean is a beautiful place. When I moved here, my whole goal was to move away. I moved back here from New York City. Man, there was opportunity, and there were people, and there was support. And I moved to Olean, and I thought, that's it. I'm going to die a slow social death. But surely, my life is happening here in Olean. I met Linda when I worked for the newspaper. I didn't come from a family that was civically engaged. They were engaged in the church, but no one ever taught me about civic engagement. I didn't know what an alderman was until I watched a Batman movie, and one of the criminals was an alderman. Sorry, I'm not saying you guys are a criminal, that's just happened to be where I learned from it. But I have come to understand through living in Olean that community means working together. And I do think we are a beautiful small town because we do have diversity. And we are, whether we know it or not, we're the metropolis of our area, which is so weird to say with our population being what it is. But look, there are kids that come to Olean to find safety from their small towns. I came to Olean to find a queer community. I came to Olean to find a safe space to be. We can be a safe space. And the eyes of the nation are watching us. I don't know the last time that Time Magazine wrote an article about Olean, New York. I don't know the last time Barack Obama tweeted about Olean, New York. But you know what just happened in the past week? Time Magazine article and a tweet by Barack Obama. The world is literally watching us, and we have the chance to set the example. Because small town America is America. We are America. And those 3,000 people that are on that page, they're part of America too, and they're here, and they're ready to be a part of the conversation. And if you cannot say Black Lives Matter, you are saying Black Lives don't matter. There's no logical converse to that. So I would urge you to look within yourself, because it's not about a Democrat-Republic thing. It's about a human life intrinsic value thing. And if you believe in the Constitution, then you believe the phrase Black Lives Matter. Period. That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much.
My name is Adam Petrozewski. I'm a resident for 22 years. I came today to express that I'm thankful that Olean affirms and support of Black Lives Matter in this resolution. I'm thankful that the city of Olean condemns the systemic and structural racism that has afflicted Black Americans for centuries. I'm thankful that the city of Olean condemns the circumstances surrounding the death of George Floyd and the systemic injustices Black people face daily. I'm thankful that the city of Olean recognized the march of several hundred community members that took place on March 31st, 2020 in protest of the killing of George Floyd. And lastly, I'm thankful that Olean affirms its support of the United States Constitution regarding the right of the citizens to peacefully assemble. To continue, it's stated in resolution number 45-20 that the Common Council for the City of Olean is committed to assist in the elimination of any systemic injustices facing Black people in the United States of America. And as it sits right now to me after reading it, it seemed like an empty statement. So I ask, what is the detail of this? How is Olean currently and will continue to be committed in assisting the elimination of any systemic injustices facing Black people? Resolution number 45-20, it states that the Common Council remains committed to keeping the city of Olean welcoming, inclusive, and safe community to all, regardless of race or ethnicity. I ask, what is the detail of that statement? How is the Common Council keeping the city of Olean welcoming, inclusive, and safe? To add, I would like to propose an amendment for further clarification with the stating that the Common Council remains committed to keeping the city of Olean a welcoming, inclusive, and safe community to all, including but not limited to race, ethnicity, color, religion, age, national origin, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity or expression, disability, veteran status, genetic information, or any other basis protected by institutional policy or by federal, state, or local laws unless such distinction is required by law. I propose the amendment regarding the additions of the demographics due to the Make Olean Strange movement that happened, or tried. The sign was erected at the Olean Coffee Shop in North Union in 2019. I was around when this was going on and talked to those involved. The space was designated for advertisement and not art. This sign displayed the names of the contact information of more than one local business along with the slogan Make Olean Strange. This was still taken down due to, from my understanding at the time, becoming a distraction and further no permit, even though obtaining the permit was not at the renter's ability. These businesses have good intentions with Make Olean Strange and having activities involving art and music for children of all ages. Art and music is something that Olean lacks, so the Make Olean Strange group gave me hope. To me, it appeared that Make Olean Strange was making advancements in their curriculum and in their advertising. But their sign was promptly replaced with an advertisement for a local law agency. In my eyes, it seemed like a total opposition of the city due to the persons involved with Make Olean Strange and their relationship to the city. To refer to the further results section of the resolution number 45-20, to me, this was the opposite of welcoming and conclusive. I just hope and pray that everyone can see that Olean does have a stage right now. As Leo said, I agree with that. I agree with Dan. And I stand with the Olean Racial Justice Coalition. I am one of the young ones who want to make a change. So I hope and pray that you guys can help us make a change. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
My name is Christina Lopez, and I'm at 1013 West Sullivan Street. As the eyes of the world are on this city, I want to make sure that more than one voice represents the city. And I appreciate each politician that's able to sit next to each other that has diverse thoughts and try to work together to make that something that works. That's not easy. I definitely can't do it. But I can support people who do represent the ability to be inclusive. And so things are changing in Olean, and it's the change that I've heard the older generation ask for. Get the kids involved. Why aren't the kids involved? Where are the kids? Well, here they are. And they're ready to be involved, and they're not willing to sit back down. So it's important to see in small towns across America as we actually enforce the Constitution and have consequences for people who deny other people their rights. And when I talk about consequences, I'm not talking about saying, well, we support the guy who died. I'm talking about actual consequences. You know, the kind that makes you never want to hurt another human being again. The kind where you do lose your job when you hurt people. Even if it's on accident. Especially if you're trying to defend yourself from hurting somebody. That these are the kinds of consequences that happen. That the world looks at it and gets so angry that this could still possibly be happening in America. I can think of only a few places in the world where this goes on without any consequences, like Syria and other extreme religious countries. This shouldn't be happening. And the young people, they didn't know really how to get involved, and then they thought, well, this is what my parents did. They took to the streets. Our history books, they kind of glossed over the fact that Dr. King broke laws in order to change things. He did not get a permit first. He did not stay on the sidewalk. He took to the streets. And he was arrested for it. And he was victimized for it. And he was threatened for it. And the police pushed people down and took coaches to them and tear gas them. And here we are, it's still happening. And that's why the young people are rising. And that's why, right now they're the biggest population in the world, that age group. It's their time, and let's go be talking long enough to do better than we did.
Thank you very much.
My name is Justice Alexander Emmanuel Peterson. I currently live at 1206 Spruce Street in Olean. I've been a resident here the majority of my life, approximately 21 years currently. The entire time I've lived here, from kindergarten up until about 2 months ago, I've dealt with racism. It's not always a daily thing. Sometimes it happens weekly. Sometimes I get a good week where I don't have to deal with it. This racism comes in everything from the form of being denied access to simple information that I'm requesting because people feel they have the right and power to deny that. But also, that racism does come in blatant forms, racial slurs. A friend of mine, 2 blocks from where we're standing right now, had the N-word scrawled across his front porch. It is 2020. That should not happen. There's no reason any of that should happen. I fit the description more times living in Olean, New York, than most people even have interactions with Olean's finest. Because of that, I decided to take it upon myself to step out of my comfort zone and walk that thin blue line. I served approximately 3 years with the Virginia Beach Sheriff's Office. I learned everything I could learn. I wanted to understand, why do people get profiled? What is it about what we're doing? Is there something that we can be doing better to not get profiled? And after my 3 years between working in corrections and industry, I realized police officers are underpaid, undertrained. They have a disconnect with their community by definition because they are trained to always remember that threat is there. When I took that oath, it was to become that sheepdog. When I took that oath, it was to stand up for people who looked like me so they could feel a little bit more safety and confidence in their local law enforcement. Law enforcement needs to change on a national basis, period. We're behind. We need to come up to speed with things. The world changes every day, but we try to keep our policies where they were 50 years ago, 60 years ago. I never understood the concept of liberal versus conservative because I didn't understand what we were trying to conserve. What's good? I hear about these good old days, but I haven't had one yet. I have not had a single one. And further on the topic of fitting the description, the most ironic part about fitting the description around here is I've gone to school with a lot of Olean Police Department's children. I've played on sports teams with their kids. Some of them have even taught some of the sports teams I've played on. Yet, as soon as it's dark out and they don't have a clear image of who I am, I now become a suspect. Why is that? I'm here in this community with you. I work here. I pay taxes. I watch out for my neighborhood. I call things in when they're wrong. And I will never stop doing that. With that being said, fitting the description so many times makes a man lose hope. Makes a man lose hope that he will be seen as a man. I firmly believe the statement. I don't know an actual author of it, but each person is a world unto themselves. A complex being of emotions, skills, memories, relationships with other people. And I often think that gets overlooked from our law enforcement on our citizens. It's not just black people only, and it's poor people too. What do poor people do? What can they afford to do? Be outside, be at the parks. There's not a lot to do in Olean either. We all know this. The skate park got shut down. That was a tragedy for my childhood, but I understood that there was, destruction of property that led up to that. But there was nothing put into supplement. We have a huge rec center that the only thing I know that's used is the pool occasionally, the couple months out of the year that we have good enough weather, and the skate rink in the wintertime. But you have all that space that you could be doing so many different things with. We have so many people in this community who have so many skill sets. Kids can be learning about nature. There's so many things that we could be doing that we're not. And because of all those things that we're not doing, people continue to lose hope. 2 months ago, I would have not shown up to this meeting. I would have not cared enough to be heard because I feel that you don't care enough for me to be heard. At one point, I thought every last one of you should resign because I had not seen my life bettered in any way, shape, or form in this city directly correlated to what you guys have done. But I'm here now, and I'm willing to work with you guys. So now I want to see you guys willing to work with us. Let's make Olean better. I love this area. I'm County to the death. Back me.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Savarino Companies. I moved to the city 4 years ago from New York City. I fell in love with Olean because I could see the potential. I even ran for Ward 4. That's how committed I am to Olean. So when I went around to the houses looking for support and trying to find people to hear what I have in my heart to give Olean, it resonated with them what I had to say. It did not resonate in the voting place, I know that, but it resonated. And there's an emptiness, there's a void. There's also that sense of, it's not even, it's hopelessness. Where do you go? Where do you go from here? What does Olean have to offer you? They see that they have been cheated. They have been railroaded. They have been lied to, overtly and so. They have been, in many ways, taken for. That's what I heard. I went door to door, so I'm not just hearsay. They spoke it to me. They're disappointed. They're disappointed on the leadership of this team. So I stand here letting you know that as a person that came here just 4 years ago, this is the best place to be. You have all the resources, you have all the human capacity, you have the talents, you have the beauty of nature that is God-given, and you're wasting it. There's a generation growing up, a generation that has poured into the spirit that wants to be. The community is aging. And we're going to miss our people who are dying now. We love them. They gave what they had to give to the community for their leaders. And then there's a young community here that we have to turn to drugs, alcohol, vandalism, whatever. They have to entertain themselves. And as the young man just recently said, there are no outlets where they can go and use that energy positively. There is so much potential in Olean that is being wasted. And it's sad to see young men and young women wake up every day in the spirit thinking, what am I going to do today? Same thing. We have a community of, we have 100% community here, 90-something percent of Caucasian. 4.5, maybe 3.7 of Black. 30-something, 20-something percent, I'm not sure exactly, from 2017 to 2018, poverty level. And 33 to 32 Caucasians are poor, or 46.7 Blacks. You know, or community, even there is a disparity. prosperity mean poor? Is it that we have more interest in giving resources to people who have skin? Let me say harsh. It sounds harsh because it is harsh, especially if you're black or brown. When you go to a place and they're looking at you like, it's not even subtle sometimes. You can see it in the body language, you can see it in their eyes. And they're talking to you, you already know you're not going to get the service. And if you're going to get some service, it's half service, you have to do the work. You need to file an application, you know how to file it, well, you're on your own. They make it more difficult. Why can the poor community blacks and the poor, I mean, that makes no sense. Is it because they lack intelligence, or we lack intelligence, and I repeat myself? Is it because we don't have determination, grit, desire? Is it because we're perceived as lazy, ignorant? I don't know where your heart is. I really don't know where your heart is. As council members and community servers, your heart should be with the community. You are here to serve equally and respectfully to every human being that comes to any other door, to any door that offers service to the community. Nobody should feel diminished. Nobody should feel embarrassed. Nobody should feel humiliated just because at this time and point in their life they need something. And it's hard to ask for help. And it's so hard that you still have to go and do it because you have a family, you have some needs, and it's real. You're not making it up. And you still have to go there and sit there and feel judged for being what? Black, brown, poor. 3 strikes. I don't know where your heart is. But I do pray that God touch your heart. And that you see, maybe you don't understand, because maybe internally you really don't believe there's any racism in Olean, there's no bias, there's no difference, everybody is equal. But the number says different. The number says different. If you have 600 and something black individuals, more than half of them are unemployed and living in poverty life. While this is a poor community, then you have to fix it. Where's the problem? It is hard for you to hear people say Black Lives Matter. Some people, I'm not saying all people. Because you're assuming that they're trying to put, or we're trying to put our lives on top of white people's better than. That is not the issue. The issue is that when a black man, especially black men, walk the street, they feel scared. Because they know a police car could come by and say, hey, where are you going? He's just walking. I work for that's where I come from. I come from New York City. That's all I can tell you. Because of the color of our skin, do not ask. I respect anybody where they come from. They're Americans. We're all Americans. Not black Americans, not white Americans. We're Americans. It is very disrespectful. It's very disrespectful to ask a person where they come from. Especially when we all come from somewhere else. Because I can ask every single one of you where you come from, and you cannot say, if you 2 or 3 will say, I'm native. Most of you have heritage from somewhere else. And nobody, I would never ask you where you come from, unless I'm having a very interesting, respectful conversation because I want to know about your culture. That would be the only time. Your last name will say, oh, I'm this last name, I've never heard it, where is it from? I'll go there. I will go there. This out of curiosity of culture, to enrich myself, never to try to profile, never to say, you're not American. So please, listen to the people that are coming here, that are talking to you,
that there is racism in Olean, letting you know there is bias in Olean, letting you know that men in Olean, black men in Olean, do feel threatened, and that you're wasting the resources, talent, and the possibilities that lies in Olean with every single citizen that lives here. Black lives do matter. And it matters so much in Olean that we have forgotten the history of the trade, the underground railroad. And we have not in Olean given the space to Dellamore to have a museum. Even though she has a space, how many years have Dellamore has been trying to make historical? This is not about Adela. This is not about black. This is about Olean's history, rich history that has been put in the back burner because it's not important enough for the citizens of Olean. Meanwhile, the world, the eyes of the world are on us, and we have so much to tell them. So much to tell them, and we're wasting all of it. It's time to wake up. It's getting late. History cannot be rewritten, but we can make history from this point on, elevating our history in Olean, because I consider myself an Olean now. Elevating our history, including black history, which is rich. And if you don't know it, maybe in Olean High, Olean Middle School, and all the other schools, instead of a Black Month, we don't need a Black History Month either. We don't need it. Because the history of the United States of America is based on black people's work and on their back. So once we put that history back without any censorship, and we deal with the ugliness of our history, once we put that back and we start talking, we can start healing. But meanwhile, check your hearts. Check your hearts. And if there's any bias there, and if you don't know a black person, I don't know. That's telling you. If you don't have a black friend, not that black friend that you know at work. No, I mean a black friend that goes home and eats meals with you. I mean a black friend that you invite to picnics. If you don't have that black friend, find one. They'll let you know. Thank you, God bless.
Thank you so much.
Everybody awake?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't look like it. Because if I'm going to speak, I'd really like it if everyone could look at me. That'd be really great. I know that some other people may not be willing to come right out and say that, but my name is Caitlin Harvey. I'm from T310 East Henley. And if I'm going to take the time while you all do your job, I'd really appreciate it if you'd look at me, sir. Thank you.
Excuse me, I'm taking some notes, okay?
Thank you. I appreciate that. So, I was really excited to come up and talk with you about performative allyship, which is basically what happens when a movement occurs and everyone wants to say something and do something, and they sort of throw out a nice little statement, create a diversity group, and then let that sort of go by the wayside and nothing really happens again, but you made the statement, it looks good, you are performing the role of ally without ever actually becoming an ally. But to do that, I would have to be looking at a group of people who can actually say the phrase Black Lives Matter without adding All Lives Matter after it. And I don't really feel comfortable having that level of conversation with that group. I was going to be witty, I was going to be enthusiastic. That's kind of who I am. I'm a pretty witty, enthusiastic person, and Linda knows it. But right now I'm sort of upset. I'm upset, I'm disappointed. I was super proud of Liam coming in. I was so surprised and thankful that this motion was on the table. Like, how cool is this? Olean's going to stand behind people of color. Olean's standing behind the youth. We're hearing it, we're getting it, we're all ready to go. Man, am I more naive than I thought I was. Because we're going back to the beginning to have this conversation, and that is so frustrating. So instead of talking about what I wanted to say and trying to have some educated one-on-one conversation, I guess I'm just going to let you know that we are holding voting drives. at every one of our events. We have registered a lot of people. I've helped register a lot of people. We are talking to young people, Black, Indigenous, people of color, about how to run for office, what offices are available, how you can get involved in your local government. So if you aren't on board with everything going on with young people, first off, I never want to hear anyone talk about a lazy, entitled millennial again, because we are not lazy, we are not entitled, we are risking our lives, and it's a lot easier for me as a little white girl to go out and risk my life, but you can bet your butt I'm going to do it, and you can bet your butt that it's going to be easier for me to run for office than some of my friends. Maybe I'll do it, maybe I won't, but one of us is going to, and we can replace you. We vote you in. This is not courts. This is not an oligarchy. We are not the British Empire. You don't just automatically get your seats. So if you're not willing to do what the city needs, we'll find someone who wins. And I really hate having to say that because I would like to be looking at a more diverse group of people, but I'm pretty sure Linda's the only woman, except the lovely one with taking notes. Are you actually a council member or are you just taking notes?
I'm just taking notes.
Great. So, I'm definitely looking forward to getting more involved in local politics and getting my friends involved. One of my friends out there who had a leave had asked me to bring up that one of the council members was selling a Drunk Lives Matter cup last year. Wasn't sure how I was going to bring that up, but man, it's a heck of a lot easier when you're this frustrated to bring up something that petty. Things are changing. It may not be right now, it may not be this November, but one of these election days, the people next to you are going to change, especially if you can't get on board. Like, get on board or get out of the way. The young people are coming, and it's not just me, it's not just my voice, but we'll either come and we'll make a change that makes us love Olean the way that the old folks love Olean, or we'll leave and your economy will crumble. It's kind of one or the other. So hopefully things change. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, folks.
Just a reminder, we'd like to keep your comments to 5 minutes, please. All right.
Yeah. So I'm Chris Stanley, 3406 Buffalo Road, Allegheny, New York. Lived in Olean for 15 years, still actively involved in South Olean. Most of you know me, don't have a whole lot to say about who I am. Just want to make clear at the beginning, I'm not a leader of this Black Lives Matter group. I'm just an appreciative supporter. So this is the younger generation who is leading this, and you're the future of Olean, and I hope you're going to give it a good hearing. I want to commend whoever put the resolution on tonight's agenda, even though I am concerned about being rather vague and toothless, and I hope that this is not all that we're going to do. Particularly, I want to call your attention to 2 points in the resolution that I hope you'll consider amending. When it comes to the active clauses, it says, "It resolves that the Common Council of the City of Olean is committed to assisting the elimination of any systemic injustices facing Black people," and we expect to hear, "in Olean, New York." And instead it says, "in the United States of America." I'm really glad that you folks are taking responsibility for the entire United States here. But I would appreciate it if that was narrowed down. It might actually carry some weight. And secondly, I think maybe one reason that's worded the way it is because this last clause seems to suggest that Olean is perfectly okay with the way it is. Be it further resolved that the Common Council remains committed to keeping the city of Olean a welcoming, inclusive, and safe community for all. How about if we said making the city of Olean a welcoming, inclusive, and safe community for all, etc. I think there's a bit too much self-congratulatory patting on the back and a bit too vagueness in this motion. But even if it is passed in its current form or in the manner in which I'm saying, I'm still concerned that you might end up thinking, okay, we've now addressed the issue. I'm glad you're addressing the issue. That's great. Let me offer you a set of questions to consider as you think about where to go after you pass this motion if you do. Because Black Lives Matter is not just about what police do to Black men. It's about broader issues that the place of African Americans and then more broadly others as well. in the community in a systemic way. Let me offer you some questions to think about. Ask yourself personally and collectively these questions. Number one, what do you know about the experiences and concerns of black people in Olean and other minorities as well? What about in your own ward? What do you know about the experiences and feelings of black people and minorities? Have you ever gone out of your way to meet with black citizens, individually or collectively, and ask them what their experience has been and listen to them? What about other ethnic minorities? Number two, what do you know about the number of African Americans who work for the city? What kind of positions they hold? How they feel about their job conditions and their treatment? Are there any active efforts by the city to proactively seek out black job applicants and or to train them and to promote them, not just for entry-level positions, but to high positions within the city? Number three, what do you know about the racial and ethnic makeup, specifically of the Olean City Police Force? About the recruitment, the training, the promotion of African Americans and other minorities in that force? Do you really know how the Olean police are trained to handle the kinds of interactions with African Americans and other minorities that keep leading to unnecessarily violence against our fellow citizens? Do you have any information about the racial or ethnic makeup of the people who are being ticketed, arrested, or otherwise penalized by the police in Olean? Number four, what do you know about how African Americans and other minorities are treated in city-owned public housing? Have any of you ever asked the residents of these facilities about their experiences, as opposed to reading a report filed by the mostly white city employees of the city? Does the city have a non-discrimination ordinance for local landlords? If so, is it being enforced? How well is the city housing code being enforced in the poor neighborhoods with more significant minority populations? Is anyone seeking grant funds to improve these neighborhoods? Number five, what are you doing to promote the recognition of the contributions of non-white peoples to the history and current status of Olean and the surrounding area? Do they really feel like this is their city, or do they see themselves as guests in the white enclave? And as already been said earlier, is there really no way for the city to free up any funding for the African American Cultural Development Center? And then number six, and the last of these questions, what efforts are both political parties making to reach out to qualified African Americans and other minorities to run for elected office in the city? How many of those people, potential candidates, could you name right off the top of your head? Have you talked with any of them about running for office? Or do you avoid putting their names forward out of fear that, quote, a black person, man or woman, can't win in Olean? Is that something that limits who gets power and who doesn't?
Mr. Stanley, that's 5 minutes. If you could expedite
Okay.
your
So please understand, I'm not accusing the council or the city of right or wrong in these. I don't know the answers to these questions. And I'm guessing you probably don't either. And so I'd like to suggest that you use things like this to guide you in investigating and thinking about as you go forward and finding out, is Olean really the neighborly, friendly, cooperative city you think it is? The last thing I want to say is, I grew up in Alabama in Jim Crow days, and we white folks, my parents and grandparents, they thought they had a nice, happy, cooperative, friendly city at the same time that they were oppressing and abusing the black residents of the city. I'm not suggesting Olean is doing that. The only point is that white people's perspectives aren't the whole story. You need to take the time to listen to others. A lot of these young people are happy to work with you, to give you feedback, to give you specific ideas, and I know, as they've said, they're committed, even if they don't get responses, to finding candidates who will respond to your concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Gentleman in the back there, where are you going to speak?
So I think this is it. You guys will be the last two. Does anyone else want to speak that's here? Okay, you give 1 and 2, and then we're done. Thank you.
Hi, everyone.
Can you turn the light off, please?
Hold on 1 second. Your self, there you go. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Wrote down my thoughts.
Oh, name and address, please. I'm sorry.
Victoria Square.
Okay.
326 South Union Street, right here in Olean. I wanted to start off by saying thank you all for hearing us today. Thank you for being willing to take this opportunity to publicly announce that you too see the issues brought up by decades of failed human
We need you. Desperately. Government in this country is fortunate enough to be elected by the people and is meant to work for the people. Since the inception of the United States, that system has worked hard to benefit a portion of its citizens while leaving another to fend for themselves. We've spent too long oppressing people under the names that make us feel more comfortable than the word slavery. Segregation laws were completely legal. And even today, the 13th Amendment allows for the freedom of all people, except for when those people are locked away and labeled as criminals. This movement right now is working towards a future where there are no clauses. There are no loopholes. One where people are treated equally. Point blank. We thank you again for taking action on this area that unfortunately does not always do that. We need you more than ever. We know what we have to do. We need to get younger people for office. We need to help educate as many people as possible about their rights, what they should and shouldn't stand for. But we can't do this alone. During our protests, we've had wonderful progress, but we need to go further. We know tonight isn't time to have full open table discussion, despite some people sort of trying to get into that. We've shown our face. We've been out there protesting, but our next move is legislation. That's why we're here today. We need you to help us continue this momentum. I'd like to close with a personal story of mine. When I was in high school, the first boyfriend I ever had was black. We were walking by Oak Hill, and some wonderful, kind men in a truck drove past us both and called me the N-word lover. I knew what the N-word was, no doubt, but I'd never been referred to as that. I'd never thought of things like that, but all of a sudden, there it was, in my face. That's what I was to them, an N-word lover. And that's what he was to them, an N-word. I made a move because I wanted to chase them down till my lungs gave out. I wanted to, you know what. But he just stopped me, cool as a cucumber. He said, don't worry about it, it happens. And I want you all to just let that sink in. It happens. It happens around the country, and it happens right here in Olean. We need your collective help to put an end to this kind of mistreatment. We need it for our nation to heal, because it's never gotten a chance to. We just keep spinning around in a circle. So I'm grateful to all of you for taking this time to listen to everybody here, and we're asking you to please go forward, because the protesting's been working, despite what some people would like to say. Protesting's been working, but now we're moving into legislature. Now we need some laws in action. We need some actual change. The more we can do this, and the more we can sit down with people and have face-to-face discussions, even if it's 6 feet apart, the more you guys are willing to listen to us, and we're willing and able to listen to you. We can't go wrong with that. We can only move forward and be better. So thank you again for taking this first step, and I sincerely hope that this is the first step of many that we want to continue to take. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
My name is Mickey George. I'm the founder of the Reforming Police Encounters campaign. On June 4th, 5th, and 6th of this year, I watched world headlines become dominated by the footage of Buffalo police shoving a 75-year-old man to the ground. Watching that footage is deeply disturbing to me personally, and watching that man's head hit the concrete that way takes me back to the day I witnessed Olean police also drop a man on his head. That man was Stephen Schindlebeck, who was later pronounced dead. He was 31 years old and one of 4 concurrently recent suicides within Cattaraugus County. As I sat in the cell down the hall, overhearing all the chatter, claims of collusion among the officers involved, it suddenly became very clear that these police are not equipped for handling situations involving care or compassion. They don't have time for de-escalation. They have their own agendas, and they help each other pursue and deflect on them when necessary. But how can this attitude be so prevalent among a force that is supposedly committing to helping, serving, and protecting us? The answer is very clear. It is the militarization of police force and tactics that has taught them to be hardened like soldiers, to treat every person like they are a potential threat. Created reforming police encounters knowing that there is no way police can possibly carry on with business as usual, not after everything that's happened, and still happening. And it seems our progressive governor, Mr. Cuomo, agrees that the later enough police must submit a list of reforms while working with the public by April of next year to receive further funding. And so we persist. As advocates for the affected in our community, we have open polls on many topics. We also have 2 open petitions calling for town hall meetings to address police reform here in our community. Progressive is the word of the day. People want to see common sense reforms as well as bold new initiatives. Policies can exist on a local level and still conflict or contradict state laws at times. We believe any such policies that would be beneficial to the community in light of these unprecedented challenges would only earn a firm handshake by our current governor. Having said that, we are currently building an online resource hub and will continue to be engaged with relevant political and social happenings. I'd like to bring up some talking points that we hope to address in the near future, should we get a green light on this. Some talking points would be racial profiling, discrimination, dealing with the mentally ill, dealing with animals, corruption, accountability, harassment, excessive force, the use of weapons, de-escalation policies, refacing the image of police, community give back, reducing force size, reducing budget, and body cam policies. To start, some common sense reforms that we hold the community for, which seems to be a universal agreement, would be to consider foregoing minor marijuana violations, to include the deliberate integration of all minorities into local planning, observe social deviances justly, enforce laws justly, and allow officers to stand down without punishment. Some of these things can happen right away. They can be discussed within the department and instituted by the chief of police. There's no reason we should wait on this issue. A petition with over 150 signatures now asking for these town hall forums. And we'd like to see some integration with social media so we can get the most feedback possible. I would ask that you consider this and any further amendments in relation to Black Lives Matter as well as police reform here on it.
Thank you very much. Okay, does anyone else have any public comments? Okay, that being said, I will declare public comment closed, and we will move on to finance and bills.
The auditor has processed bills and claims against the city of Olean as fairly submitted to each alderman and recommends payment thereof. Whereas the auditor has presented to the common council bills and claims against the city of Olean totaling $1.9 million for the budget and recommends payment thereof. Now, therefore, we resolve that the same be and all hereby audited and allowed, and the auditor is hereby authorized and directed to do warrants for the payments thereof at the amount set opposite each respective claim. We can sponsor it.
Okay, I will sponsor finance and bills. Can I have a second, please? Second by Alderman Crawford. Clerk, please call roll.
Alderman Witt?
Yes.
Alderman Panis?
Yes.
Alderman Doughty?
Yes.
Alderman Crawford?
Yes.
Alderman Barito?
Yes.
Alderman Anastasia.
Yes.
And Alderman Gonzalez.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, resolutions, please.
Resolution 44-20, PL 34-20, to authorize the mayor to enter into a contract between the County of Cattaraugus and the City of Olean for Mosquito Springs services for the term May 1, 2020 through December 31, 2020. And also that is part.
Okay, so we did not discuss this in committee. No. Any questions or comments? Bill, anything you want to add?
We discussed this briefly last meeting, and this is an annual contract. And if you recall, during the budget process a couple of years ago, we stopped including money in the budget for this, and we said that if this comes to be, we would take the money out of our contingency fund.
Okay.
So that's it.
Just as a reminder, Bill, is that around like $15,000?
We usually budget about 17,000, or we did budget about 17,000. It's in that area.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, let's hope we don't have to use it again.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, would someone like to sponsor?
Nope.
Sponsored by Alderman Witt, seconded by Alderman Doherty. Will the clerk please call roll?
Alderman Witt.
Yes.
Alderman Panis.
Yes.
Alderman Doherty.
Yes.
Alderman Crawford.
Yes.
Alderman Alito.
Yes.
Alderman Anastasia.
Yes.
And Alderman Gonzalez.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0. Resolution 45-20, PL none. Resolution in support of Black Lives Matter. We also got a sponsor.
First of all, I would like to sponsor this, but
I'd like to second.
seconded by Alderman Witt. But before we move forward with it, Alderman Witt, did you have an amendment in mind you wanted to make? You kind of work out the language?
Yeah, I was thinking, basically, whereas to open a conversation, put together a committee for a public conversation, including our police, our city government, and our community members. I don't know if you want to shorten that.
So whereas the City of Olean is committed to establishing a committee that will,
May I add?
yeah, should please.
May pursue diversity, inclusion, and equity.
As a continuation of what I said?
Yes.
Yeah.
Are you getting this today? All right, there we go.
5 simple words.
So,
amongst
like that too?
amongst
Yep.
community members, yeah.
Yep,
I
okay.
agree.
Yep.
Is that good? Or should we, I think, okay.
Do we want to change that United States to the city of Olean? Or leave it the way it is?
I'm inclined to leave it the way it is right now, but listen, I'm 1 of 7, so.
Yep. And the other, committed to keeping the city, how about working to make the city?
I have a feeling if you want this to go through, this needs to go back to committee. That needs to be right.
I don't agree with that, but that's your prerogative as well.
So do we need a motion on that amendment?
Yeah,
I'll make the motion.
so Alderman Witt moves to amend accordingly as discussed, to include.
Just one. How about making the city of Olean a more welcoming?
Sure. Fine.
Sorry, it's nitpicking.
Yep, we're getting all.
But saying making the city of Olean a welcoming place, to me,
Yes.
it is a welcoming place.
Yes,
But to
it is.
others, it might not.
Correct. Okay. So it says you got all that? All right. Okay, so Alderman Witt moves to amend as discussed. Would someone like to sponsor or second?
I'll second.
Second by Alderman Crawford. All in favor? Aye. Any nays? Okay, the ayes have that. The resolution is amended accordingly. Any additional comments or questions on the resolution?
So that's consisting of two amendments. Is that correct?
I suppose I lumped them all into one. Just
Do we need two separate two separate motions?
No, you're just making a single motion to amend the legislation as written, like John's change and.
correct. And Tiffany's got all that. Yeah, good. Okay.
Just like to clarify, this resolution is to support the movement as itself, as the idea. I know there are organizations out there that call themselves Black Lives Matter. So that's why, I mean, are we supporting an organization, or are we supporting the movement, the belief that we need to bring social injustice to an end?
I don't see a disparity.
So I believe, if I can, because Kevin and I have had discussions in the past, there may be some distinction that in some areas the organization may have turned to violence, and is that correct, Kevin?
Correct. Yeah, you know what I mean. You say I support the Catholic Church, for example, and there's different churches all over the country, versus you believe in that religious, denomination.
So it's a fair point. I would encourage you to interpret that however you want and vote as your conscience tells you, because I'm confident in the wording as it is in my support of it. So if that means you don't vote for it, then that's fine. Any thoughts on that? Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, so it's sponsored by Alderman Gonzalez, seconded by Alderman Witt. Will clerk please call roll?
Alderman Witt?
Yes.
Alderman Panis?
No.
Alderman Doughty?
Yes.
Alderman Crawford?
Yes.
Alderman Palito?
Nay.
Alderman Anastasia?
Yes.
And Alderman Miller?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-2. Resolution 46-20, PL 35-20 by Alderman Wood, seconded by Alderman Crawford, to concur that the City of Olean Planning Board to declare as lead agency on the SEQRA for the proposed historic rehabilitation and adaptive reuse of the former First National Bank of Olean and Siegel into a mixed-use complex by Savarino Companies, LLC.
Okay, once again, we discussed this in committee of the whole a little while ago. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Okay, seeing none, will the clerk please call roll?
Alderman Witt?
Yes.
Alderman Panis?
Yes.
Alderman Doughty?
Yes. Sorry.
Alderman Crawford?
Yes.
Alderman Palito?
Yes.
Alderman Anastasia?
Yes.
And Alderman Gonzalez?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0. Resolution 47-20, PL 36-20 by Alderman Witt, seconded by Alderman Doughty, to concur that the City of Olean zoning board will declare as an agency on the SEQRA for the proposed renovation of the existing Temple Midnight at Israel building and construction of a 320 square foot addition of the rear of the building by the Olean Theater Company.
Okay. Once again, we have sponsors, right? Okay. Discussed in committee of the whole. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Okay, seeing none, will the clerk please call roll?
Alderman Witt?
Yes.
Alderman Panis?
Yes.
Alderman Doughty?
Yes.
Alderman Crawford?
Yes.
Alderman Palito?
Yes.
Alderman Anastasia?
Yes.
And Alderman Gonzalez?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0. Resolution 48-20, PL 33-20 by Alderman Anastasia, seconded by Alderman Palito, to amend the City of Olean Code of Ordinances, Section 24-134, to prohibit parking on the east side of North 6th Street from its intersection with Wayne Street North to the end of the street, and to authorize the installation of no parking sign on the east side of North 6th Street.
Okay, once again, discussed in committee. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Okay, seeing none, will the clerk please call roll?
Alderman Witt?
Yes.
Alderman Panis?
Yes.
Alderman Doughty?
Yes.
Alderman Crawford?
Yes.
Alderman Palito?
Yes.
Alderman Anastasia?
Yes.
And Alderman Gonzalez?
That's yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
So I hate to do this, Paul, but do we have like 2 minutes to go into executive session to discuss the sale of real property?
Yeah.
It'll be 2 minutes.
I'll set the time to look at it for. Yeah, I'll make a motion to enter executive session for real property discussions.
I'll second.
Second by Alderman Crawford, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, any opposed? Okay, so the regular meeting, all in favor?
Aye.